dental arts.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jack Ringer, and I'm here today to give you a little bit of an overview about digital impressioning, and in particular, the 3M TrueDef scanner, which is sitting here right next to me. So we as dentists, one of our challenges is when we do indirect restorations, we have to take impressions for our laboratory to then manufacture, be it a crown or a veneer. And as you know, when humans get involved with everything, there's a lot of potential for error. So in the conventional way of impressions for us is we isolate the tooth and we take this goop or whatever you want to call it, the improgum, and we insert it into the mouth. So right there, the dentist putting it in, if the tray is warped a little bit or it's taken out too quickly, you may get a distortion or a bubble. Some dentists try to patch those bubbles. Anyways, once that impression is taken, we have the lab pick it up. So you have to call somebody in or you mail it, and it gets to the laboratory, and then from there, they send it to another human who pours a model in stone. And as we know, that has to be done very accurately because of the properties of the stone. It can distort. And if that isn't done perfectly, when the technician builds the restoration on the die, it's going to be based on that die, may not necessarily be the exact representation of that prep tooth. And then from there, then the final process is done. Well, in the digital world now, we get to eliminate a lot of these errors and make things a lot more efficient. So we prep the tooth like we normally do. We isolate like we normally do. And then we're going to take a scanner, and I'll talk a little bit about those in a second, capture the image digitally, or the prep teeth, whatever we're going to be restoring. And then that's sent electronically, via the internet, instantaneously to the lab. So right there, we have eliminated some time issues because we don't have to mail or have a lab guy pick it up. The digital file then is processed, and at the laboratory, they now have an exact representation of the tooth. So we have two choices at this point. We can have a model milled, which is most common, or we can design the restoration virtually and then just have the restoration computer-generated manufacturing, CAD/CAM. Okay, so it'll just be milled on a machine and then finished. So we are eliminating the model issue. So once we have that digital impression taken, it's sent instantaneously to the laboratory via the internet, so they get it within about 15 minutes. So we're not worrying about mailing or having a lab person come and pick it up, so that reduces costs and time. Once they get the digital file, it's processed, and the lab has the choice of, well, not necessarily they have the choice, you have the choice to direct the lab to either make the restoration on a model or virtually. If it's on a model, the lab will get a resin model milled, okay, which is very, very accurate. It comes from, obviously, your digital impression. And it's done by a machine again, so we're not worrying about human error. We are moving a lot now in the virtual world where the restoration is designed virtually on a computer, modellessly, okay? And then that design is imported into a CAD/CAM machine, a milling machine, and then the restoration fabricated. So there again, you're eliminating a lot of human error. So it's really a fantastic thing. I got to tell you that traditionally, I used to schedule, say, 45 minutes or so for a seating appointment for a crown because I had to allow time to adjust some contacts maybe and the occlusion because it always seemed, even the greatest labs, you'd have some adjustments to do because, again, there is all of these areas for the potential for human error. Or you'd find out that the crown comes back and either you took a bad impression or maybe something got distorted somewhere along the line and you get the crown, you try it and it doesn't fit. You play around, you still don't get it fit, so now you have to take another impression and send it back to the laboratory. Now with this doing my impressions digitally, and particularly when I'm doing them modellessly, I'm scheduling about 15, 20 minutes for my seating appointments because contact adjustments and occlusal adjustments are virtually zero. These things are unbelievable. So let me just tell you a little bit about the different systems for digital impressions out there, okay? We're not going to talk today about the manufacturing, just the actual impression side of this. So digital impressioning has been out quite a long time ago. A lot of you may have known going back, something close to 30 years or something like that, when the first CIRAC unit came out, which was an early generation digital scanner with a built-in CAD/CAM machine. And you would take the impression, the machine would mill it out, and you do everything in one step. Well, that particular system has evolved several generations over the years, and it's a very, very accurate system, very complex, but incredibly expensive. It may fit into your workflow, but your investment's going to be probably around $125,000, $150,000 for that type of setup. Well, since then, there have been other systems developed which it's just the standalone impression camera itself, okay? So there are quite a few out there right now. Most of them use a point-and-click type of technology where the scanner will take hundreds and hundreds of pictures instantaneously, and it's like point and click, and then algorithms would build the virtual model or file. Very, very accurate. The system that we're showing you today doesn't do that. This is proprietary from 3M. It uses 3D video, so it's instantaneous live video, so there's no necessity for building algorithms. So kind of compare it to you going to on a vacation and you're going to take a picture of, say, the new Trade Center in New York, and you go around with your camera and you click and click and click and click and click all different type of images, and then you stitch it together. That's the conventional way of doing the digital impressions, or the most common way that was out there. Versus you go into that same place and having a video camera and taking everything, it's probably give a better representation, unless you took thousands of little digital pictures and then stitch them together. So that's what we're using with the 3M, and this is their latest generation. It's called the TrueDepth scanner. This came out a few years ago, and I'm going to show you in a minute how that works. Cost of this is far more reasonable. You're talking somewhere around the $15,000 range, versus some of the other standalone units are $25,000 and up. And today when we buy our cell phones and any other digital products, they're almost throwaway technology in the sense, because stuff is evolving so rapidly that in order to keep up, we have to keep upgrading or dumping one technology and buying another one. Well, if you're spending $100,000 on something, you're going to hang on to it a lot longer than you would if you were spending $5,000 on something. So that's why I am like such a huge advocate of this, is that your initial investment is much lower, yet the result is as good, if not better, than all the other systems out there. The other thing about scanning is also the ergonomics for you as the dentist and the comfort for the patient. So most of the systems, they use a wand, and here's the example of the TrueDepth wand. And you can see how small this is. It's almost the size of a handpiece. And in fact, when I scan, I kind of hold it like my handpiece. Most of the other scanners are anywhere from 30 to 50, 100% size of this. So it becomes a little bit more challenging to position it in the mouth. Sometimes you may need two hands or hold it like this. The other advantage with it being a small head scanner like this, you can capture everything in the mouth. You don't have to struggle getting back to that second or third molar area. So this was a very well thought out system. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you briefly. I've just pulled out like a little old model, and I'm going to scan this and show you the process for this. Just understand, whether it be the 3M scanner or Sirona or whatever, at least with video or some type of video scanning, you can only pick up what it can see. Okay, so if there's contamination from of the margins with blood or saliva, the scanners can't see through that. So it doesn't make a difference which system you have to have really good isolation. All right. With our conventional impressions, sometimes we would have like a little bit of moisture, and we would hope, and sometimes it works with the heavier body impression materials, that if there was a little bit of fluid, that the impression material would deflect that fluid away and you'd still capture the margins. Well, with this, that's not going to happen, so you just got to make sure things are isolated. The other beauty about digital, by the way, versus analog, if I took an analog impression and I got a bubble, well, I could try to Mickey Mouse it and patch the bubble, but you risk getting a distorted impression, and that means that you're going to have a distorted restoration. So if you are really concerned about quality, you're going to throw that impression away and do another one. Well, studies have shown, by the way, that every analog impression you take, the average cost for that is around $30 to $40 for every time you take an impression on a patient. And then on those that you have to redo that impression, there's another $30 or $40 down the drain. With digital, every impression is free. Granted, you have to pay for the unit, but every impression is free, and you can patch your impressions. You screw up, you can go back and patch it with digitally, and it will correct where the errors are. Okay, now I'm no scientist and I don't understand all these algorithms, but it is very, very clever and intuitive. So let me show you how this works. Most cameras, when they take the video, they need some sort of contrast. So 3M, contrast medium, I should say. What 3M has done is they have provided this little duster, if you want to call it. It just punches out a little bit of titanium dioxide, stuff you find in toothpaste. And it's just as a contrast medium. In the old days when Cerac first came out, you had to literally coat the entire tooth with it. It was like a whiteout. With that, we're not advocating. We just want a tiny little dusting, so it gives a nice contrast for the camera to pick up. The camera will still pick up without it, but the shiny of the surface, it's going to be hard to pick it up, and it's just going to make it more tedious for you. So if you just, as you see, I just took a little model here, and you just go like that. You can see how quick and short that was. That's all you need. So you just go around and you lightly dust whatever surfaces you're going to work on. And then that area will be ready for scanning. Obviously, you want to make sure that after you've dusted that your margins are still clear. So take your air syringe and just blow around the margins. Make sure you can see everything nice and clearly. Okay, so then all you do is you take your scanner, and I'm just going to have this here like this is my patient. And this, we're going to scan here. You can see it's a lower arch. So I'm on the unit there. It gives you an option for upper or lower. I'm just going to press lower. Okay, and down here, it gives you an option on how you want to orient the camera itself. All right, so you may like to do it across the occlusal surface or to the side. So this will give you that option right there. For our purposes here, I'm just going to use going across the top. Okay, so when you're ready to scan, okay, you've dusted, you've blown off any excess if there is any, so you can see the margins. Remember, the camera can only pick up what it can see. You just press the start button. This system also, by the way, you can actually tap the unit itself and it will turn on and off. Okay, I prefer, just for the purposes here of just using the on-off from the screen itself. But you turn it on and then you just position it. And the nice thing about this camera, by the way, is you don't have to have a certain depth of field. You can actually rest it on the tooth, which I'm doing now, and it still picks it up. And you can see how clear that is. Okay. Once you get out of range, you see what happens, but you just go back, it gets back into range. Okay. And see, out of range, then you just go back and it'll pick it up. There it is. It's a little awkward for me because I'm working on a model on my lap, not on a patient's mouth, but this is just to give you an idea. Then once you're finished, you just stop that. Now, I took an impression there of, what, 4 or 5 teeth? And it took, there's a timer up there, it took 25 seconds. Okay, I mean, that's like nothing, and I'm doing it kind of awkwardly. Once you're happy with that, then you just press save. Okay. And there you have it on the screen. So you can move this around and you can enlarge it. Let's go here. Okay, we'll come back to that. Oh, by the way, it also gives you an option of orientating your position, whether you're sitting and you want to scan with the patient's head going down, or you can turn your body and you're facing the patient up. Okay, so they've really thought this out well. All right, so let's say we're prepping this tooth. Now you want to check that specific tooth, so you go to the check screen, okay, and you highlight, and let's say it's going to be tooth 22 here or whatever, or 21. You highlight that, press 21. Okay, press OK, and then it blows it up and you can see everything very accurate. Now again, this isn't a prep tooth, but you can see how it does that. Okay, and once you're happy that everything is okay, you just press OK. And then from that, you would then scan the opposing arch. Okay, so you would change the arch, take a little dust, okay, put the dust on it, turn it on, okay, and there we go, we capture, sorry, there we go. It's a little awkward for me because I'm doing it upside down and backwards. But just for demonstration purposes, you'll see. Okay, so there I've captured that. So that would be the opposing. Okay, so now we're going to take a bite on the patient. Okay, so we scanned our upper arch, and let's call this our prepped arch. All right, so now we go to the bite icons, and here lets you do right, center, or left. So this is the left side we're doing. So here's the patient, the left side. We have them go into occlusion, and typically you want them in centric. Okay, put it together, click on that icon, and now you just have to capture a very, very quick little references for the lab. And there you see, we have our whole bite taken. We save the scan. All right. And there you can see we have the digital scan. Let me enlarge this if I can. There we go. And what's very cool about this now is, you know, you can move this around in any dimensions that you want. You can spin it. You can see if you have what clearance is, if you don't have enough clearance. The software is very clever too. You can actually set it So it'll tell you if you have enough vertical clearance on your prep. So for instance, if you reduce the prep 1.5 millimeters and you did your bite and you were only at 1 millimeter, but you wanted to be at 1.5, it'll show you that you're under prepped. And then you can go back and prep and rescan. If I, for argument's sake, if this was my prep model, I looked at my impression and there was a problem, I can go back, like I said earlier, and take my prep again and just patch it. I can go to the lower there. Let's just say I missed a margin right there as an example. I can just go like that. And what the software will allow us to do is merge it with the original file. And it will clean up whatever errors there were. So you see there it is, it's like normal. Okay? So once you have your digital impression done, you just go to the prescription menu that's built into the system and fill out your particulars. You want whatever it is, what material, what shade, any specific notes. There is a database there of labs. So you'd go to Keating Dental Arts, click on that, and then it's just sent instantaneously. Now, the last thing that I just want to tell you about with digital impressioning is that it makes you a much better dentist. And there are two big reasons for that. One, you're taking an impression and look at the size of it when you see it on the screen versus holding that little impression in your hand. So you get to see what you've done a lot more magnified, and you get to see if you really are doing good or poor work. The other thing is your patient sees it, okay? And that's cool for marketing, all right? Everyone who sees this, it's very cool. This is been around for a while, but only about 10% of dentists are using digital scanners right now. That's starting to change rapidly. But patients love this because they don't have to have this goop in their mouth, the gagging and the taste or whatever. And this is very quick, incredibly accurate, inexpensive. And lastly, I forgot this too. You don't even have to do it. You're in California and other states, your assistant is allowed to do this. In my practice, I have my assistant scan my opposing arch. And after I've prepped, sometimes if I need a full arch scan for any reason, I may just scan the preps and then get up and let her scan the remaining arch. But I honestly like to do this, so I like to do the scanning. It's very, very quick. But in some practices, your workflow may be that you need to be a little bit more aerobically inclined going from room to room. So you can delegate a lot of the scanning to your auxiliary staff. So to me, it's a no-brainer. No more goop. You can scan anything, by the way. Some people have asked, what about implants? Well, with implants, we have two ways of scanning them. There are implant companies that have encoding in their healing caps, which all you have to do is scan the code, and it gives all the information to the lab. But the vast majority are using what are called scan bodies. These are just little snap-on pieces that go over the implant, and you scan and having in the same mindset as if you were doing an analog impression. So you can scan implants, veneers, crowns, bridges, inlay, onlay. A very cool application for this is for orthodontics. Big orthodontic practices, they take analog models, and what do they do with them? They run out of room. A lot of them hire storage facility places to keep all their models. Well, with virtual scanning, it's all on the cloud. You don't need that. You scan, you have the work done, You can toss the model. And if you ever need it again, you just go to the cloud, retrieve it, and if you need another model, just have a model made. So this has great application for orthodontics. There isn't anything that you can do dentally today, analog, that you can't do with digital impressioning. So with that, I hope this was helpful. I hope some of you, or hopefully all of you really, would start seriously looking into this, because this will be the standard in not too long a time. Remember film? Remember not too long ago, people were using 35 millimeter film. And when digital cameras came out, the purists said, digital will never last. It'll never be as good. Today you can't even buy film except from one company. I think Fuji's the only place in the world you can get film anymore. Everything is digital. It's gonna be that way with impressions, okay? It's gonna be there. We're in that digital world. So either be a person right now, jump on the bandwagon early and take advantages of having the latest and the greatest in your community or your practice, or you can wait and miss out on tons of opportunity and savings. So with that, thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed it.
Keating Dental Arts.